and welcome to Whiteboard Sessions. My name is Andrew Maff and I am the founder and CEO of BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company for e-commerce sellers. And today I'm going to go through exactly how we structure Facebook ad campaigns. And for those newbies out there, it's also Instagram ads. But what I'm going to go through is how we structure them. I'm not going to go into what audiences we do or how we figure out creative or anything along those lines because we're going to do that later. We're going to do that in a different video. Today, we're going to go real high level and just show you exactly how we structure these campaigns. So we're going to pretend, and we did this in the last Google Ads structure. So if you saw that one, you know how I prefer to do these videos. But essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you how I do this, and presuming that we have like one product line. So if you have multiple product lines, you're going to want to just duplicate this process. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to start with one campaign that's going to be basically a prospecting campaign, and we're going to do that probably as a CBO. So your campaign budget optimization. If you don't know what that means, that basically means that Facebook's going to take that budget that you're giving it and split it up amongst the entire campaign and all of the ads, and it's just going to cater towards whichever one's doing the best, right? So then what we're going to do is we're actually going to take several different ad groups, right? Or ad sets, I should say. And we're going to test a bunch of different audiences. And again, like I said, don't know which audiences yet. I'm going to show you that in a different video. So we're just going to pretend that you did some different audiences. So, and again, also the iOS change, a whole different story. So ignore that. So basically what we're going to do is, let's say in this case, we're just testing 3 audiences. If you have a big enough budget, you want to test multiple audiences, more than that, by all means. But so we're going to pretend we're just testing 3. Due to iOS, some people are saying that interest-based is working better. So in this case, we're going to say that, you know, we're doing an interest-based audience, then maybe we're doing a lookalike of our email list, and then let's say maybe we're doing a lookalike of purchasers, right? Like something super straightforward. And in this case, these are all 1%, right? So it's a 1%, is probably where we'll start, and then we'll open it up into a 2 and 3 and 4, and etc. So there's been some changes. So obviously this comes down to, like, Facebook is such a fluid situation when you're running ads. So there's a couple differences in how we would do this. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to try and separate out these different audiences to figure out which audience is working best for us. In some cases, depending on how large these lookalike audiences are, you might actually not have a large enough audience base to run an ad, and Facebook will tell you that, you know, it's limited or something along those lines. A little a yellow dot next to it will show it. But basically it's limited and doesn't have enough data. So you might have to actually do what we refer to as stacking. So maybe we're going to combine these 2 audiences so that we have enough data. That might happen, that might not happen. That's going to be on a case by case. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to have this. And again, I'm not really going to get into ads and creative and things like that on this video. However, what you should know is the way that you test this on Facebook is going to be very different depending on what you want your approach to be. The way that we typically do it, since this is a testing ground that we're doing right here with this prospecting campaign, we're probably only going to test about 2 or 3 different pieces of creative, but that kind of, again, depends on your budget. If you have a large enough budget to be testing with and you want to test a bunch of different pieces of creative, by all means. But in the beginning, let's just say we're doing 3, right? We're going to do 3 for each of these. They're going to all be the same so that I can figure out which pieces of my creative are doing the best. And so that way we can kind of figure that out from there. So basically we're going to run this. We're going to run this with all these 3 ad sets, right? What we're going to do now, we're actually going to create another campaign. And so this one, let's call this one a top campaign, right? We did it in Google Ads. We can do it here. If you want to call it a success campaign, or if you want to call it a holy crap, it works campaign, I really don't care. But whatever it is, this is like your holy grail campaign where you're probably going to put a lot of your budget. So let's just call this the top campaign. Now, this is dealer's choice on whether you want to do a CBO or if you want to do it actually by paying by ad set. So as I mentioned, for those of you who don't know, CBO campaign or campaign budget optimization basically means I'm putting all of my budget on the campaign and Facebook's going to split it out amongst these ad sets relatively evenly in the beginning, but once it starts to learn, it's going to start to cater towards one or the other. In this case, if you have, let's say, the lookalike purchasers did really well, and let's say one of an interest that we did really well. So I'm going to actually take these out, and I'm going to negate them. I'm going to basically exclude them within these audiences so that I know I'm not doubling up on it. But I'm going to then move them here. So let's say now I have an interest based here, right? And now I have a lookalike of purchasers, 1%. So this this campaign, this testing ground, you kind of want to make your decision and make it fast. Because if you have CBO and you go, great, this one's getting catered to and it's doing well, now I want to move it down here. Get rid of it so that Facebook can start and figure out which of these works best. So usually within about a week, maybe depending on your product, depending on your category and things like that, usually within about a week, maybe 2 weeks, you're going to go, okay, this one's definitely our best one right now. And then you can get rid of it, let that budget go towards the other things that you're testing or testing new things. And now we're going to move that down here. So we have this in our top campaign. So now the question is, do we do it as a CBO or do we actually put our money directly into each ad group as opposed to the entire campaign as a whole? Like I said, dealer's choice. If you do a CBO, it's going to spread it evenly amongst these that work, but we already know these work. So the issue here now is that we already know these work, so why would I want to split my my budget into these differently? Because Facebook's going to eventually cater to one. So you're going to want to A/B test this. Typically what we end up doing is actually paying by ad group as opposed to campaign. So this is just going to be my top campaign. Again, this will be prospecting, so basically a new audience, right? So we're going to just call this a top prospecting campaign. And then this one, I'm actually going to put my budget and split it evenly amongst each of these ad groups. So basically that way what's happening is this is my campaign that houses all of my best audiences, but I'm going to just give a split share of my budget to each audience, at least in the beginning. As time goes on, I might want to cater more to a budget in my interest or more to a budget in my lookalike of purchasers, whatever happens there. So here is where I'm going to test some different things. So chances are, in this one, let's say your lookalike of purchasers did well, there's a good chance that one of these ads is probably your best one that did well with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this lookalike of purchasers and let's say this second ad with different creative, and we move that down here. So now we only have one ad. But we only have one ad that's not really testing, and you should be testing at all times. So what are we going to do here? We know this creative worked, and we know that this copy worked. So now the question is, we pretty much narrowed down the creative because we tested 3 different creatives here. Here, what we might do is just be consistently testing new copy, right? We know this one worked, so if Facebook continues to cater it to that one and that one's doing well, great. But in the beginning, I might try A/B testing a couple other different pieces of copy, or I might create it more like a responsive one and put a bunch in there and let Facebook figure it out. So that's kind of, again, user's choice. You're going to have to basically just test it on an ongoing basis and figure it out from there. But similar to any kind of funnel structure, essentially what we're doing is figuring out which audience here, and we're going to narrow it down to our top audiences in this guy right here. So that's basically just having one testing audience down to one audience that we know is working. Now, as I mentioned, if you have a second product line or even multiple product lines, you might want to duplicate this because your audiences may be different. Maybe you want to do a lookalike of purchasers for a specific product line. Maybe you want to do a lookalike of email list for people who had purchased from a specific product line, but also downloaded stuff for that specific product line or anything along those lines. Maybe the interest is different. A lot of things to consider there, a lot of stuff to test. Audiences and all that are going to be another video because that's going to take a little bit. So the next thing now is our retargeting and our abandoned cart. So let's talk about retargeting. So we're going to have pretty much one retargeting campaign is my preference. And then we're just going to go straight at, so let's call this, a retargeting campaign. And I actually kind of prefer to do this one straight at putting the money into each ad group as opposed to as a CBO. And the only reason I say that is because what I want to do is I actually want to break this down by what I figure out my sales cycle is. So you're going to want to go into the back end of whatever platform you're on, look into Google Analytics and really dig into, okay, once someone lands on our site, how long does it take them to convert, right? So if you have a very short sales cycle where 9 times out of 10 they purchase within 2 days, well, then you're going to want this first ad group to be basically, let's say 5 to 7 days. So you're going to want to target, let's say 7 days so we can do a clean week in this scenario. But you're going to want to target everyone who has visited your site in the past 7 days and didn't convert. Because basically this is going to be a majority of your audience. You're going to want a majority of your budget to go here, right? So that way, you're probably going to want this frequency to be a little bit higher too, because you want to stay in front of them a lot. Now, this one, we're going to do, let's say 14 days, right? So we're going to do 8 to 14 days, and we're going to put a little bit less budget here, and we're going to want the frequency to be a little normal here. Normal to me, I try to say like 3 to 4 times a week, but again, it's going to be dependent on your product line, and you start to learn how much brand awareness you really need to have. Sometimes, like we've worked with coffee brands, they need a lot higher of a frequency than your average, e-commerce seller who might just be selling something, like a marker, which I seem to use a lot of. But now you got to think, so this is everyone who's come to the site and didn't purchase within 8 to 14 days, right? So now we have the budget's a little bit lower. We have the frequency. We're probably going to average like something normal. And then this one we're going to do, again, it's going to be dependent on your life cycle. Maybe you want to do 15 to 30 days. Maybe you want to do more and do 14 to 21 and then 21 to so on. Like you can basically break this down however you choose. Typically, after about 30 days, you start to risk really pissing people off because you're following them everywhere for a very long time. And in this case, I'm definitely using less of a budget and I'm keeping my frequency a little bit lower than usual. This is just a, hey, we're still here, don't forget. And you might get some of those stragglers, but I'm not really betting on this one, so I'm not going to put too much of my budget there. So these will all be your stereotypical, like, we'll do different creative and we'll do different copy. We're going to test different ones as time goes on. But definitely want to make sure we're testing, primarily video is obviously the goal. If you can't have it, maybe cater to a carousel so it's a little more interactive. And then if you're stuck with a static image, so such as life sometimes. But basically we're going to test all those here, but I'm going to keep all these basically separated. Now, the other side of this too is to consider an abandoned cart. So an abandoned cart, we're going to have to set it up as a different campaign. And the reason I suggest setting this up as a different campaign is A, these people are very more likely to convert, right? They added it to their cart. They were basically ready to go. They were on their way and then they stopped. So we're going to want to put a pretty good amount of budget here. However, I know that what we're going to do with this one is going to be a dynamic campaign. So basically what a dynamic campaign is, if you're not sure what that is basically you connect your catalog from whatever platform you're using directly into Facebook, and then you're going to just show, it's going to automatically show whatever the product is that they left in their cart. Or maybe a product also that they saw and didn't add to their cart or something, but it's going to show products that's very specific to them. So this one I'm going to want to have a pretty significant budget for to actually cater towards showing them exactly what they left behind, or copy, depending on your brand. It might be something like, hey, come finish the job or something like that. But I'm going to put a decent amount of budget towards this. So this is going to be a dynamic campaign. Currently in Facebook, at least as of this video right now, you can't do a dynamic campaign and also doing like your average creative of like a video or a carousel or something. So you might, within your retargeting campaign, also want to have another abandoned cart that's a little bit more catered towards, the creative. If you want it to have obviously much more of a custom vibe, and maybe you can personalize a little bit more. Or what you can do is create yet another abandoned cart campaign that's not dynamic, and do the same thing here, where you have they abandoned the cart 7 days ago, 8 to 14 days ago, 15 to 13 days ago. And then again, depending on your product line, depending on your brand, if you're okay with offering a sale, maybe you want to offer like, hey, for this first 7 days, just a reminder, like, hey, you left it in the cart, please come back. 8 to 14 days, be like, hey, here's 5% off. Now we're down to 10% off. And then that's going to be up to you on how far you want to tier that down. But essentially what's happening here, right, is we're prospecting, trying to send them all to the website. So we're just going to pretend this is the website, and this is going to get really messy here. So prospecting, we're going to send them to the website. Maybe it didn't work. That's fine. We're going to retarget them for 7 to 14 to 31 days. And then, now we've catered to, we figured out exactly who our audience is. So we're sending them to the site, and we know they're going to work well. But again, we're going to retarget them just in case they don't. And then for everyone who added to the cart, and we're like, yeah, they're doing well, we're sending them directly back too. So this is basically how we structure these Facebook ad campaigns. A lot's changed with Facebook ads recently. A lot is different, again, depending on your product line, your category, your owner, because it's obviously going to be dependent on what your overall goals are with the business. But this is usually how we start off structuring a Facebook ad campaign. We're going to get deeper onto another video about what types of audiences to test, different interest-based audiences, different lookalike audiences, when to get into 1% and 2% and 3% and so on. We're going to do that in another video. But for now, I just wanted to show you all exactly how on a high level structure with a little bit more visualization here about how we structure these Facebook ads. But that's all I had for today. So obviously really appreciate everyone tuning in. If you have any questions or you have a specific product line, you're not sure if this is going to work, just comment and I will make sure that I get into it and let you guys know exactly what I would suggest, or someone from my team will. And then of course, if there's a video that you want us all to cover that you would like some more insight on, more than happy to do that. So just make sure you guys comment below, and of course, rate, review, subscribe, and all that fun stuff that every YouTube channel says. But appreciate it all. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment and we'll make sure to get to them. Okay. Thanks.